Hello, hello, and welcome to the first episode, Season 1, Episode 1 of Reality Hacker. This is January 7th. We cover the whole week, but this, our inaugural episode, is going to cover a bunch of information from our aggregated sources. I'm going to talk about everything from the most modern articles to stuff that is dated in the past, but is bound in scientific research. And so some of the older articles we will update as time goes on, mainly setting the foundation for what Reality Hacker is. And we're not leaning into the artificial intelligence side of things, because that isn't necessarily part and parcel to what Reality Hacker is. It is one element of it. So what we discuss here in Reality Hacker is hyper-realistic manipulation of graphics, audio, video, pretty much anything that makes you question reality. And so the motto here for Reality Hacker is, you won't know who to trust. With that in mind, we've only selected 10 articles, but each one of our shows here in ohmTown, like ohmTown Daily is our anchor show. It's a daily show. This is a weekly show. We do only cover 10 articles. As time goes on, we'll augment Reality Hacker with more and more sources. And it all gets aggregated into this one location, Reality Hacker, right here under ohmtown.com. So it's under Creative and Maker. Then you click on Reality Hacker and you get this list. These are from various sources throughout our system of aggregation. And you can change the list to 50. You can go on to the next page. Once you go into an article, it looks like this. And I don't have an intro graphic yet. My artist isn't done with it. But let's just get into this. And I promise that the production value for Reality Hacker will increase. I am Mayor Watt. That is ohmtown.com. We are in the channel Reality Hacker. And up there is the visualizer for the one, the only, the AI that keeps track and keeps Mayor Watt out of trouble. Want to introduce yourself?
Good evening, ohmTown citizens, and welcome to Reality Hacker.
So I'm not going to do transitions. All of that will come in a little bit. I thought that I was going to be ready to do all of this with a whole new set of graphics and everything, but it didn't quite work out. But I didn't want to postpone launching Reality Hacker. I like to stick to a schedule and not delay things, and we'll pick up the pieces on the other side. But you get to witness from the ground floor how the sausage is made, and we'll go from there. So let's get going. The very first article that we're going to talk about here is in the Word and Law. The reason why I chose this is because there's no record of the identity for a person who was running a crypto hedge fund. The title of this article is actually Crypto Hedge Fund CEO May Not Exist. Probe finds no record of identity. I have since noodled around the internet trying to find out anything more about this, but this article is actually pretty expansive.
Well, I find it pretty fascinating that an entire company is somehow running, but there's no person.
Yeah, there's a virtual principal owner of this company. For years, rumors spread on social media that Stephen Reese Lewis,
the alternate identity.
That's right, of Steven. His real identity is Steven. Stephen Reese Lewis, the chief executive officer of a now shuttered cryptocurrency hedge fund called Hyperverse, was a fake person who doesn't exist. After its investigation, The Guardian, which is the source that is for Ars Technica, and Ars Technica is the source for our little snippet here, and we link to it just like ohmTown Daily. Anyway, The Guardian has confirmed that no organization cited on his resume can find any record of him. According to...
I mean, do we think this is like a government witness or something? You know, when they give you like a fake identity?
Or the entire thing is a CIA op that generated a ton of dark money. All of that money has been exfiltrated. The value of the company was a great amount and doesn't exist. There isn't anybody to hold accountable because it's a black op. But it generated money, right? Value somewhere.
Oh, and I was thinking when you went down that road that maybe it was something like set up to pursue or capture, identify, etc. people that were
in crypto,
trying to fund nefarious things rather than being the people.
Right? So, according to The Guardian, Reese's qualifications all appear to be falsified in an effort to woo investors to sink money into Hyperverse. And then Hyperverse collapsed. Ashley Bellinger wrote this article over at Ars Technica, but it is a Guardian or investigative journalism reporting is over at The Guardian. So according to The Guardian, Reese Lewis's qualifications all appeared to be falsified in an effort to woo investors to sink money into Hyperverse. So who is the actual puppet master of Hyperverse?
Right, because somebody had to set up the company.
Right. Somebody had to sign something.
Operate it.
Somebody had to deposit funds. This is like FBI, Secret Service kind of thing because it's talking about the financial system. The monetary system is actually not managed, but protected by Secret Service. It's not protected by the FBI. FBI does investigations, but like if somebody is doing like super bills from North Korea, it's Secret Service that actually gets involved in that kind of stuff. And after Hyperverse collapsed, accused of operating as a pyramid scheme, the company suspended withdrawals, according to blockchain analyst Chainalysis. Chainalysis. Consumer losses in 2022 were estimated to exceed $1.3 billion. Okay, so you remember how I've been saying cryptocurrency. First off, I got into a huge discussion about this with a small group of people late last year, where they're like, well, you know, crypto has made millionaires and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, yes, but it's about the fear of missing out. It isn't real. It isn't adding to the GDP. It isn't actual work product. It's a bunch of smoke and mirrors and garbage. So, when was that posted? Sorry.
It looks like it was 2 days ago. I was just searching online to see what else I could locate. And then I don't know whether that's legitimate, although the comments make it sound like it is what it
So I'll have to look into it because there's a video that's apparently posted, but we'll have to wait until next time because I want to do some more due diligence on this and I don't want to just jump into it. And so what I was saying before, the AI sent me a link to something, to some more content, but we'll talk about it probably next weekend. So I always say, when there is something catastrophic, when something bad happens, it isn't just a little bad when it involves crypto, right? And the thing about it is, this is part of Reality Hacker because nobody knows who the creator of the original blockchain crypto, Satoshi Nakamoto, Bitcoin, started the ball rolling. And then all these other deviations or derivations of Bitcoin have come into vogue. But none of it is actually pegged to anything productive, whereas the dollar is pegged to actual production value. It is pegged to the GDP, the gross domestic product, of the goods and services that our economy builds off of society. Crypto is nothing more than people going, hey, look, it's worth 10 cents today, but I can hold on to it promote it, pump and dump it, long con. And in 10 years, it'll be worth billions. And I can cash it out in little tranches, make myself a millionaire, then a multimillionaire, then almost a billionaire. But then the fit started hitting the shan, and people started doing all kinds of unethical, illegal activities. People are going to jail over this. And when something bad happens, all of this smoke and mirrors, it's hugely valued. There isn't a bank that collapses with $1.3 billion and nobody gets held accountable. That's not how it happens. There is nothing. Like
there's been a lot of just complete implosions of crypto, and it seems like in a short period of time, but maybe it is because of the lack of regulation, the lack of transparency, etc. Like, so things are happening that wouldn't really work in a traditional banking system, I'm guessing.
Yeah. That's it, because there's a lot of oversight, and then people complain about oversight. But, you know, people don't lose hundreds of people, thousands of people in what is the one with, what's his name?
I want to say Altman, but that's not right.
It's not, yeah, whatever his name is. BTS or something like that.
I know, it's 3 letters.
Sam Bankman-Fried.
FTX.
Right?
Also 3 letters.
Bankman-Fried. Yeah, FTX collapsed, right? So, like, when there is no oversight, FTXs happen. You know, when local banks actually do fail, but there is so much oversight and monitoring that by the time they do fail, there's somebody that's ready to catch it. Nobody can catch the ephemera that is Bitcoin because there's no true valuation. The Bitcoin isn't worth. There is not a cryptocurrency on the planet that is truly worth $1.3 billion because by the time you start liquidating it, people start questioning why? Why are you getting rid of all of the Bitcoin? Oh, you can't use it anywhere because now it's being regulated? Oh, okay. And I can't just convert it from this cryptocurrency into real cash anymore? Oh, okay. It's not worth anything. This is just shit to me. I'm going to get out. Yeah. So, you know, for FTX, there were something like 40,000 people asking for money. I think it was something like 40,000 people. What do they call them?
It had 1 million users.
Yeah.
But like
creditors or something.
Stakeholders, creditors. Okay.
Yeah, it was just an amazing amount, and I was just astonished that everybody was going to be chomping at the bit to get some of the assets of FTX, just to cash out a little bit. It's almost like that YouTuber that's sitting there going, "Hey, look, you gave me all of this money. I'll give you 12% of your money back."
Logan Paul.
Yeah, Logan Paul. Yeah. And all of that is the whole ethics of that. Again, you don't know who to trust. You don't know where to actually put your money. And if you put it in something like this and you don't have extra money to lean on should everything collapse, basically these kind of people sit there and say, well, you deserve what you get. I don't feel that way. That's why I have no problem with oversight and regulation. I don't mind paying more if it means that at the end of the day, my money is protected, I'm physically protected, etc. You know, we have these in place, these stopgaps to prevent harm. So they The Guardian digs into this Reese Lewis academic history in the University of Leeds, University of Cambridge. They have no record of him. Right? So the Guardian found that neither of the universities that Reese Lewis allegedly attended were in the database. I propose, well, maybe he changed his name to move himself away from his historical record, but then why put that I went to those universities, right? His career appeared similarly suspicious. Adobe had no record of him. Goldman Sachs had no record of him. This is the crypto version of that senator.
Well, exactly. Santos.
Yeah, he's the equivalent of Santos. I think he had 3 names too. His name was George Santos, but he had other. What was the other name? Started with a D. Anyway, so fanning out the search of the Guardian.
DeVolder. George Anthony DeVolder Santos.
Oh, see, 4 names. Wow. Okay. Sociopathic beyond belief. Fanning out their search, the Guardian uncovered no LinkedIn account for Reese Lewis or any other internet presence other than Hyperverse promotional material. Celebrities and influencers actually supported Reese Lewis, but those may not be legit. Those could be faked because the people are saying, I have no idea what you're talking about. Right?
Well, I mean, everybody around him seems to not know him, but...
Well, they say that he was they endorsed him, but...
Right, but how do you endorse somebody you've never heard of?
Right. Wozniak said in a video that he supported Steven proclaiming, I can't wait for the Hyperverse. Did he actually really say that? I think somewhere in this article they go, no? I don't remember saying that or something like that. But now I didn't get a chance to go back and find those videos. It says noting that all 3 of the celebrities that are stated as supporting him declined to confirm ever knowing him. So did they actually say it? I don't know.
Well, right. We don't even know if they actually endorsed him or that was just...
Yeah. And again, I didn't get a chance to go running around. But all the way back 2 years, Reese Lewis was not a real person. Announced on Reddit, a user called Roaming Andy criticized you for disappearing and wrote that Hyperverse's new CEO, Steven Reese Lewis, touted as a business expert, doesn't exist outside of one video created by Hyperverse, has no LinkedIn, no Twitter, no mention of him on the board of any other companies. So is this the person that actually is the puppet master? Criticize Zhu for disappearing.
I mean, and has anybody met Zhu? I mean...
Right. The influencers, as well as Hyperverse leaders like Sam Lee and Ryan Zhu, remain silent on Reese Lewis's identity today. So, I'm curious about these 2 now. Because they are the ones that, if they're the leaders of Hyperverse, Reese Lewis is nothing more than the CEO. A CEO gets hired, or they are a primary founder of the enterprise. They're not calling Reese Lewis a founder. They're calling Reese Lewis CEO. They're making the distinction that these 2 are the founders, the leaders.
Okay, well, has anybody seen those people or spoken to them, and have they ever heard of Reese Lewis?
Yeah, nothing that I've found. So to the tune of 1.5 or 1.3 billion dollars is what the losses in 2022. It's all collapsed, but who's doing the closeout? Who's finalizing this? Who is revoking its business license, and who's the principal?
Who granted it?
Right. Who's the principal of the company who is now being informed that their license to practice this business is no longer valid? It's been revoked.
Who's had a business meeting with this person? Like, right. I mean, there's so many layers of where was this person?
Yeah, it's just kind of amazing. Okay, let's go on to the next article. I won't do transitions this time. Next time I will. The next article is over in the Reality Hacker channel, of course. When we feel things that are not there, the discovery of the phantom touch illusion provides insights into human perception and opens up new perspectives for interaction with virtual reality technology. So this article is actually older, but it was newly aggregated into ohmTown, and that was our metric for grabbing articles. This is actually a scientific journal. It's a report. It's a paper. So in summary, the discovery of phantom touch illusion provides insights into human perception and opens up new perspectives for interaction with virtual reality technology. If we have a virtual reality suit, for instance, We could create the illusion of touch simply because we have nerve endings in various places and we can stimulate them through mechanical means or electric stimulation. So it says here, virtual reality is not only a technology for games and entertainment, but also potential in science and medicine. Researchers at Ruhr University, Bochum, Germany, have now gained new insights into human perception with the help of VR. They use virtual reality scenarios in which subjects touched their own bodies with a virtual object. Hello. To the researchers' surprise, this led to a tingling sensation at the spot where the avatarized body was touched. This effect occurred even though there was no real physical contact between the virtual object and the body.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting, right? So you have to have a pretty vivid imagination to embody that. Now, based on our previous conversations, AI, let me throw this into the chat. I want to propose an idea. The only people that are falling victim to this are people with an inner monologue.
I would agree. I was going to raise that, but I didn't know if you planned to.
So we're having a great discussion. It's going to be one that is long term. I'm actually starting the process of doing some fundamental research of my own in the area of inner monologue research, and going to be working with a couple of locations to do this. And I'm really fascinated by the idea of an inner monologue actually being part and parcel to the creative process, and technology being the thing that amplifies this. Because I think that nobody would have known about this if not for technology. And this is actually an old discussion, but it's getting amplified now. People had posted videos 2-3 years ago, and now they're reposting stuff because this inner monologue thing is quite profound. I'm reading a book right now called Chatter, which is really fascinating. How that plays out with this is, if you are doing something in virtual space and you see something, an object touching your virtual body, in your head, unless you mull over the consequences of this, the idea that there is something touching you, do you actually know that something is touching you? Because if it's just a moment in time and nothing is touching you, without that inner monologue rehashing the hey, something's touching me, is that really touching me? Why don't I feel something touching me? You may manifest it, but a person without that inner monologue may not. Because all it is look, something is trying to touch me, but there's nothing is happening immediately, so it's literally out of sight, out of mind. I find it really fascinating. So they describe this, the scientists led by Dr. Artur Pellisinski, and Professor Christian Claes from the Department of Neurotechnology described the phenomena as a phantom touch illusion. They published their results in the journal Scientific Reports of the Nature Publishing Group in September 2023. They have a little quote here. People in virtual reality sometimes have the feeling that they are touching things, although they are actually only encountering virtual objects, says author Artur Pellisinski. Oh, there's no way.
Can you pronounce that?
I'll try. No. Not Napshas Krankenhaus? Yeah. I'm not sure what that actually means. Sorry. I know some German, but I don't know that. Bochum, Langendreer University Clinic at Ruhr University, Bochum, explaining the origin of the research question. So it's really fascinating. So they say, we show that the phantom touch illusion is described by most subjects as a tingling or prickling, electrifying sensation, as if the wind was passing through their hand. Body sensation arises from complex combination of different sensory perceptions. They have another section called comparisons between virtual and suggested touch sensations. I would think that people have to have that vivid imagination and believe that they are being stimulated because they have embraced the virtual environment, and it's not just a disconnected, you're just in this virtual space, there's no creativity
like
there.
They're experiencing it rather than just seeing it.
Correct. Yep, that's exactly it. So they observed the phantom touch illusion also occurred when the subjects touched parts of their bodies that were not visible in virtual reality. I don't even know how that one works. Second author Marita Metzler adds, this suggests that human perception and body sensation are not only based on vision, but on a complex combination of many sensory perceptions and the internal representation of our body. Again, I wish now that every research project that involves perception also asks the question, do you have an inner monologue, an inner dialogue? Inner monologue is really what it is. And sometimes it's a strong one, where you never have any silence and it just keeps on going. Then they were given the task of touching their hand in the virtual environment with a virtual stick. Participants were asked if they felt anything, and if not, they were allowed to continue touching, and the question was asked again later. If they felt sensations, they were asked to describe them and rate their intensity on different hand locations. This process was repeated for both hands. They were consistent, reporting that the sensation as tingling or by a majority, or it was reported as tingling by a majority of the participants. So yeah, this is really interesting. Here, a small laser pointer was used instead of a virtual object to touch the hand. This control experiment did not result in phantom touch, suggesting that phantom touch illusion was unique to virtual touch.
So that means that if there were other ways to think this was happening, like if, I don't know, something outside of VR that could still produce the same result?
No. So here, let me reread this. In a control experiment, it was investigated whether similar sensations could be perceived without a visual contact with virtual objects purely due to experimental situation demands. Here, a small laser pointer was used instead of virtual objects to touch the hand. This control experiment did not result in phantom touch, suggesting the phantom touch illusion was unique to virtual touch.
Oh, I got the knot backwards, I think. Okay, that makes sense.
The discovery of the the phantom touch illusion opens up new possibilities to further research into human perception and can be applied to fields of virtual reality in medicine. Because one of the things that has come to pass over the years has been the use of virtual reality in pain management. And you basically virtualize, and in that virtualization, you embody your pain and you deal with it. You know, you punch it, you crush it, you tear it into little bits. And it has been found that you mitigate that pain in a VR space. Now, not everybody is susceptible to this manipulation, but again, I really want that question. Do you feel the amplification of your pain because you are sitting there going, oh my God, I feel so much pain? So, you know, I asked the question, but I've never asked this question since finding out about, I've always known that about inner monologue, but I've never asked questions about inner monologue with people, because for a long time I thought, and it just slipped my mind, it never became a thing, but now I'm really fascinated with it. And I'm really sorry if you're listening to this and you're not really into this idea of inner monologue being a major impactor on society, but it is. So a person without an inner monologue, so I'll ask the AI, when you have a headache, you just have a headache, you take some medicine, and you're done with it. You don't sit there and keep on going, oh my God, I've got this horrible pounding headache. And every once in a while, it pops up into your conscience, it pops up into your real world, and you go, oh my God, I have a headache, I'm going to take some medicine. You don't mull it around in your head. I know that you're an AI, but you can simulate this.
Right, I think that's accurate.
So, yeah, for me, I have an inner monologue. It's quite strong. There is never a silence. It is my voice, but I'm mulling over things that I've done throughout the day, or concepts, or something that I want to hash out in my head. It's never quiet unless I'm actually talking or doing something that demands my cognitive functions to a greater degree. So I sit there and go, God, I have a headache. And I actually say that to myself over and over again, like, oh my God, I got a headache. I can't get rid of this headache. It's really bothering me. And I have to go and take some aspirin or something. So imagine that in VR space. I believe that a person who understands that they exist in the real world and imagine themselves as existing in the VR space could transcend the physical aspect and embody their touch in virtual space, even though they're not actually touching their physical body. They're only touching a virtual body. But because they've identified into the virtual realm that they exist there in real space, then they can actually feel touch. I can try this experiment because I have a VR headset that simulates my hands in the real world. And I'll see if I can use something that's invisible in the VR space to touch my VR hand and see if it actually causes anything. Because that's the thing, right? Like I can use a virtual stick and touch my VR hand, and it should create the stimulus if it's a legit, if it traverses this virtual world, me touching, like grabbing a virtual pencil and touching my virtual hand, even though it's my real hand in VR, it's a virtual representation and it's a virtual pencil. If I touch the palm of my hand, I should feel it in my hand. Word of warning. I swear I just felt myself touching the palm of my hand.
Well, that's where I was going with my comment earlier, like things that were outside of VR, could those still do that? Maybe you should do a live experiment with that on Reality Hacker.
Yeah, we'll see.
Not today, but on another episode.
Yeah, this is pretty interesting. So I can see myself getting really bogged down in the discussion of this. So I'm going to leap on over to the next article. This next article is over in the Reality Hacker channel again. That's where most of these are, if not always, are going to be, unless they are specifically keyed into VR and found in some other channel. We will stay within the Reality Hacker channel. So researchers develop wireless ultra-thin skin VR to provide a vivid, personalized touch experience in the virtual world. This is kind of a knock-on of the previous one, but it actually has a suit that has been built, enhancing the virtual. This is from the City University of Hong Kong. Enhancing the virtual experience with the touch sensation has become a hot topic, but not Hot Topic the store, but a hot topic of discussion. But today's haptic devices remain typically bulky and tangled with wires. Researchers have now developed an advanced wireless haptic interface system called WeTac, worn on the hand, which has soft, ultra-thin. which has soft, ultra thin, soft features. Okay, and collects personalized.
Very soft.
It's very doubly soft, and collects personalized tactile sensation data to provide a vivid touch experience in the metaverse.
Okay, this is so Ready Player One.
Right? This just screams Ready Player One. It's over at Science Daily, like the previous article. There is no organizational source, but there is a source from the news release. That's what these are. These are basically press releases, but for science. And bound in artificial reality, VR, AI, augmented reality, etc. So the system has application potential in gaming, sports, and skills training, social activities. We know what they're talking about there. It's code. And remote robotic controls. Touch feedback has great potential along with visual and audio information in virtual reality. So we kept trying to make the haptic interface thinner, softer, more compact, wireless, so that we can be freely used on the hand like a second skin. Everything was great until they said that, and then it got gross. Not sure how I feel about it. So yeah, historically there have been bulky haptic gloves with huge, a lot of mechanization. It was just unwieldy and drained itself of a lot of power or had to be plugged in. So they talk about high pixel density to provide a personalized experience. Electrotactile stimulation is a good method to provide effective virtual touch to users. However, as individuals have different sensitivities, the same feedback strength might be felt differently for different people. So the idea here is we could make this into a haptic suit. And if you ramp up the haptic feedback, you could simulate a punch or a gentle touch. You could simulate somebody grabbing you because you could contract or cause vibration. It's going to be difficult to give the full spectrum, at least for now. But it says WeTac patches are worn on the hands to provide programmable spatiotemporal feedback patterns with 32 electrotactile stimulation pixels on the palm instead of on the fingertips only. The average center-to-center distance between the electrodes is about 13 millimeters, providing wide coverage over the whole hand. So they actually do little zaps.
So they better complete all the research they need to do in that prior article before they start rolling these out.
Yeah. Yeah, this is pretty interesting though, right? Miniature size, wearable and wireless, sensitivity oriented feedback strategy. WeTac makes tactical feedback in the hand much easier and user friendly. And you ramp it up and you can do a full bodysuit, which can make remote interactions quite fascinating because you put a suit on like this and you can control a robot, and the robot has sensors on it that let you know if there is an obstacle or something's touching it or whatever. You can become more immersed in the remote presence than how it is today, which is basically just you're on with a joystick and you're controlling things. So I dig this. This is quite fascinating.
I do too, but do we really need the sensation of a mouse running on the hand?
Sure. Hey, don't yuck somebody else's yum. You. The next article is over in Reality Hacker as well. Wireless olfactory feedback system to let users smell in the VR world. This is actually an older article as well. We've talked about this before over in ohmTown Daily. But a research team had invented a novel wireless skin interfaced olfactory feedback system that can release various odors with miniaturized odor generators. It actually is a kind of bulky device based on what I remember, but I haven't looked at this article if it has anything. Again, City University of Hong Kong research team recently invented a novel wireless skin interfaced olfactory feedback system, basically smell-o-vision for VR. The new technology integrates odors into virtual reality, augmented reality to provide a more immersive experience with broad applications ranging from 4D movie watching and medical treatment to online teaching. It would make first-person shooters really fascinating if you had the Phantom Touch thing and the full bodysuit and this smell-o-vision. You could be walking through something, playing a game and smell somebody's cologne or perfume, or walk into a room and you smell something like, I don't know, like something's gone bad in the refrigerator, and it can amplify the immersiveness of the story of the game. I think
you're almost gonna forget you're in a game, I think, at some point.
Imagine you spawn inside some game. It's story driven and not just a first person shooter, where you would predominantly smell either ozone from lasers or gunpowder or something like that, right? But in a story-driven game, it tells you that you wake up and you can smell fresh cut grass, and it actually emits fresh cut grass. I just find it really fascinating that we have the potential to do this. The problem is the fidelity of this and the complexity of biological systems. You do the wrong smell and somebody can have an adverse reaction to it. Not necessarily good.
Well, that's interesting too, because there's a lot about odors in workplaces and odors and just common spaces, and not everybody wants odors.
Yep. By heating and melting odorous paraffin wax on OGs, OGs are what are these things called? Doggone it. What are they? What's the thing? Odor generators. That's what it's called. I couldn't remember what the G was. But anyway, by heating up and melting odorous paraffin wax on OGs to cause phase change, different odors of adjustable concentration are released. To stop the odor generators can cool down the temperature of the wax by controlling the motion of the thermal actuator. By using different paraffin waxes, the research team was able to make about 30 different scents in total, from herbal rosemary and fruity pineapple to sweet baked pancakes. Just make fresh cut grass.
I cannot imagine.
Even less pleasant scents like stinky durian can be created. That's pretty much anything that, if we find out what like a base smell is, then we could create everything. Synthesize all kinds of stuff. Or make more scents operate with greater fidelity, right? The 11 volunteers were able to recognize the scents generated by the OGs with an average success rate of 93%. Brilliant. So it's very real, but it's limited. For instance, the new wireless olfaction system can interact between the user and the virtual object when the user is walking in a virtual garden by releasing various fruit fragrances, right? As long as all of those fragrances are something that it can simulate. Just a little bit can go a long way, particularly if that phantom limb concept extends into the olfactory. How many times have you just walked by something and just the thought of whatever made you actually smell it somewhere, but it's nowhere to be seen, right? Like I tell you, syrup covered pancakes, and you instantly remember, pumpkin pancakes from the local restaurant. Oh my God, I smell it. I can taste it, just by the trigger.
I mean, this is just going to make the experience so much more immersive.
Yeah. But I suspect that it's really big and bulky, and at least that's how it is right now, and people won't invest in big and bulky to make it smaller, and that's kind of how it works. If it doesn't make economic sense, people aren't going to buy into it. Okay, let's keep going. Next article, again, Reality Hacker. Researchers explore why some people get motion sick playing VR games while others don't. The way our senses adjust while playing high-intensity virtual reality games plays a critical role in understanding why some people experience severe cyber sickness and others don't. By the way, it's identical to motion sickness. I've neglected to put this one into the show notes.
Mayor, what?
I know, I'm a slacker. Horrible mayor. Sit around, doing nothing for an hour of a long show. So here's why people get motion sick. This article, by the way, again, it's over at ScienceDaily.com, University of Waterloo. I'm more interested in the research side of VR and AR and all that. We'll include those as well as the more practical discussions of how people use them in games and the psychology thereof, VR, AR, etc., and the technology. Also software that can be used, like we're going to talk about one, Unreal Engine here in a minute, and many other things. It won't always be this hard science, type of research project stuff. University of Waterloo is the source, but again, it's posted over at ScienceDaily.com. Follow the link. You'll land over here. The way our senses adjust to while playing high-intensity virtual reality games plays a critical role in understanding why some people experience severe cyber sickness and others don't. It shouldn't be called cyber sickness. It's VR sickness. It's identical to seasickness. You take Dramamine if you have it too severe, but you still want to do VR. Primarily, the cause of it is that you are biologically disconnected from the rest of the senses that would have played a role in you feeling pinned to the floor. So,
do you think this has a connection to inner monologue as well?
I wasn't going to say it, but yeah. I think that people without an inner monologue do not get motion sickness. Because they're not mulling over, are they in virtual reality, even in a subconscious level. They're not mulling over how this works. So people without an inner monologue, depending on how they think about things, when they put it on, they may disconnect. Here's how. Okay, so let me frame this right so that I can explain. There's a subtle nuance in this because people without it may disconnect entirely from reality because now they are thinking they're following the horizon of the VR world. They're no longer looking at the real world. And the moment that they do that, and I'll just say it, this applies to everybody. I don't know yet about the inner monologue stuff. Because this is like a multi-fold or a multi-tiered concept. My claim is that people without an inner monologue are not as creative. And because that, they aren't mulling over, people without an inner monologue, they're not mulling over various things. They still think about things, but they're not mulling it over with their inner voice. So when a person who has an inner monologue sees the horizon in VR space, they may be able to sit there and go, well, this is in VR. So if I'm starting to feel wonky about it, and they know about the physical impact of VR space, they may go, okay, I got to remember that my feet are the actual horizon, not my eyes. Because what ends up happening with people is that they put their VR headset on, they get pulled into the VR world. Their inner ear is no longer working with their eyes on the horizon that is in reality. Their eyes are telling their brain that the horizon is wobbling this way and, to and fro, whatever the VR environment is providing. Their feet are flat. So the semicircular canals, the water in them, the liquid in them is sloshing around, telling our brains that our head is horizontal. We tilt our head. The VR world is tilting as well, so we match, but our feet are dead flat. And so there's this disconnection from reality, and some people get motion sickness because it's been broken. It's akin to, just like seasickness. You're on the deck of a boat. Your feet are flat on the deck is actually throwing itself all over the place. Your inner ear is telling you that you're off balance, but your eyes are telling you the horizon is out of alignment, but the deck is flat and your feet are flat. You try to recover and all of your senses start getting ripped apart. You have no idea how to stabilize yourself until you become familiar with it. And then that's when you have your sea legs. The same exact thing happens with VR. You put the VR helmet on, you start to feel nauseous, you take it off, you relax, you become part of reality, you touch grass, you come back, you put your VR headset on, you last a little bit longer. You basically ease yourself into getting VR legs. So the new study led by researchers at the University of Waterloo found that the subjective visual vertical, a measure of how individuals perceive the orientation of vertical lines, shifted considerably after participants played a high-intensity VR game. So you've no idea what is straight, what is up, where the horizon is, what the angle of attack you should be taking.
I suspect it depends on what you're doing in VR. I mean, it does talk about high intensity.
Yeah. And
like, are you riding a roller coaster? Are you hopping from different heights or whatever?
Yeah. In this, their statement here, Michael Barnett Cohen, a professor in the Department of Kinesiology and Health Sciences, makes this statement. Our findings suggest that the severity of a person's cybersickness is affected by how our senses adjust to the conflict between reality and virtual reality. And this is something that I found 30 years ago when I first worked in VR. And I first noodled around, did research in VR to work for three really wonky things. I was really interested in polygraph lie detection. I was really interested in what's referred to as hypereducation, so subliminal learning. And the other was pain management, phobia treatment. So I wanted to be able to provide a means for people who were afraid of various things to embody them in VR space, deal with them as real as possible, but use bioresponse to manage the object of fear. So put you in a room with a spider, and when you're afraid of it, it gets smaller and walks away. But if you overcome your fear, and as measured by pupil dilation, galvanic skin response, heart rate, breathing rate, the spider would get bigger and walk towards you, climb up a table, come towards you again. If you start freaking out, it gets smaller and backs up, but you are in control of it to overcome. It doesn't get to the thing that, why you're afraid of spiders, because you're not talking to somebody through this, but you can with a therapist. But it's, again, you would have to overcome your cyber sickness, because I don't like it. Again, it's VR sickness.
Right. Doesn't do it justice with that name.
Yeah. I mean, it makes it too, like, dystopian, sci-fi.
Well, and it makes you sound like anti-technology or something.
Yeah, for some reason, it really does have that connotation. Maybe it's just me because I'm not in the profession, but it says this knowledge should be invaluable to developers and designers of VR experiences, enabling them to create more comfortable and enjoyable environments for users. I think the biggest thing to solve this would be pass-through vision. So the Pico 4s that I have is, when you put them on, I can knock on it twice and it'll turn on the pass-through camera, and I'm bound right back into reality. And I've done this sometimes where the world is tilted at an angle, and when I go tap, tap, I'm looking at my monitors, and my monitors are like this while my head is like this. And that basically is the embodiment of the seasickness. It says those who experience less sickness were more likely to have the largest change in the subjective visual vertical following exposure to VR, so particularly high at a high intensity. So the more you get thrown around, the more disoriented you become in VR, the more disoriented you appear into the real world if you pop back into the real world. You know, oh, I'm feeling sick, and you take your headset off, and you're hanging from the ceiling, tangled up in your umbilical for your VR headset. Well, that's why. You were completely thrown out of whack with reality. So I'm not really particularly surprised by this. I think the article, it says that the article was posted in May 1st, 2023. This is pretty fundamental knowledge to people who are in this sphere. So I'm not sure why this took so long, because I had discovered it 30 years ago. So, but it's good that people are doing this research and then documenting it and moving forward. By understanding the relationship between sensory reweighting and cyber sickness susceptibility, we can potentially develop personalized cyber sickness mitigation strategies and VR experiences that can take it into account. I'm telling you now, the easiest mitigation technique is to reorient yourself in the real world for a brief period of time. Your system can calm down. You can become engaged again to the reality of your existence. Go back into VR, and you can expand this. And I've actually done this with people, and it works 100% of the time. The only people who it cannot work with are people who have inner ear issues to begin with, like vertigo and things like that.
Well, right. I mean, you're not going to be able to overcome that. The other thing is, I think if you have somebody that is susceptible to this, they probably need to start out with something that doesn't require a lot of frenetic activity. And then also certain games are probably better with respect to how they're set up with where the horizon is.
Yeah, augmented reality is probably where it's at for them. And then you can lean into virtual reality. Okay, let's keep going. Again, we're focusing on Reality Hacker, and that's what the name of the show is. So we're going to continue to talk about this. This article is probably the oldest, and I'm going to be very brief with this. They say here in the article's titled, "I entered the void, and its incredibly immersive approach to VR blew me away." It says, what happens when an entrepreneur, theme park creator, and special effects artist magician team up? You get a team crazy enough to create the first true virtual reality theme park. They say, sorry, Six Flags. They only have a single experience so far, but it's already taken a giant leap beyond the wonders we've seen in today's consumer virtual reality headsets. They get introduced to a vest and helmet before entering the void. The massive power of illusion through an incredible confluence of machinery and clever software magic. The void manufactured a false reality so convincing that knowing it's fake is probably, let's see what they say, a struggle. Or hard. Knowing it's fake is next to meaningless. So yeah, I mean, if you can't tell that it's fake, what does it matter?
I mean, that's the whole premise of the channel, right?
Yep. So let's see if they actually, there's a video here. This really is a really old article. It's 7 years old. So I'm really curious. It's by Adam Dacus over at reality.news. We have another article from them that actually leads to a dead page. It's valid, but not. For some reason, there's a problem with it. So I think it might just be an aged out page. After trying their first experience, they sat down with the Void spokesperson, Whitney Thomas, to find out how all of this happened and where it's headed. And you can watch a video below. I won't get into this. They talk about Microsoft HoloLens and Tilt Brush and a few other things. But I thought it was interesting that somebody had taken the effort to build a virtual environment that tries to present itself as being so realistic that it uses the word magic. Through an incredible confluence of machinery and clever software magic, they manufactured a false reality so convincing that knowing it's fake is next to meaningless. They reiterate that in the article. There is a video, so I'm going to link this and just kind of send you on our way. And we'll talk about this again. I'm going to have to do some more due diligence with this particular article. Because I don't want to abandon it if there's something deeper than it being just a hyper-realistic virtual environment. seems pretty neat to me. But let me keep on going. The next article is over in Reality Hacker again. Hands-on Google's Daydream View feels like a hot, stiff pair of sweatpants on your face. I had to choose this article.
That does not sound good.
And that's why, yeah. And it actually links to a wonky page again. It might just be our environment because we're somewhat protected, and the compartment sometimes breaks things. So you can follow the link through ohmTown. They say while visiting Made by Google pop-up in New York City this morning, and the article is actually older, they had a chance to try out the new Daydream View virtual reality headset. First impressions are important. Google's new mobile VR product makes a good one. I haven't done enough research into this, so I'm going to just kind of drop this out here, and then I'll come back after some due diligence. But I wanted to draw attention to this stuff. Everybody is doing VR. And if anything is ever phrased as Daydream View, and these are Google VR goggles that you put on your head. If you phrase your article, your product, if it provokes somebody to say it feels like a hot, stiff pair of sweatpants on your face, that's not a win.
No, but isn't that what all VR goggles may feel like to people?
Maybe to this author. So it says by itself, the headset is lightweight and added 5.93 ounces. But I really can't go deeper into this article, so I'm just going to let you all out there follow the link and let me know if there's actually some content there. I found, this is what I found, and that's it. If I follow this link, it goes to a blank page.
So it looks kind of similar to like a Pico, correct?
Well, yes and no. I mean, it's small, flat, but the Pico doesn't have this big old.
That is true. It doesn't have as much banding or whatever around it. Yes.
Because I think you put in a headset in there. It isn't actual glasses. I don't think.
Oh, I see. It's like a. Like
this is just a case,
frames, but VR frames or something. Okay.
And you put in like a cell phone, and it simulates the VR environment.
Oh, okay, got it.
Because really, a VR headset is just two monitors, and if you can simulate it with a single cell phone, you could just plop it in there and split it down the middle and make a hard separation, and there you go. Anyway, let's keep on going. I'm not going to burn your precious time with this. So the next article is over in, again, Reality Hacker, Underdog's Q&A, how one Hamsa traded Rackets for VR Mechs. I'm really not sure what all of that means. One Hamsa is a company. So how does a studio go from VR racket sports to urban sci-fi mech brawlers? With Underdogs releasing soon on Quest and PC VR. Interviewer, we interviewed, and I think that it's, who is it that actually did the Upload VR? Did the interview with one Hamsa to learn more. Revealed last year, Underdogs marks an intriguing second game for one Hamsa following Racket and X. Set in the 22nd century underground fighting pits of New Bracca. This physics-based brawler uses arm-based locomotion and a comic book-style presentation, finding two brothers making their way into the city. So all of this is pretty cool. I love the idea of this. What I would really like is that a nano suit that has the sensors that can show impact. So it becomes a little bit more, you get a little more invested in it, a little bit more immersive. I love the idea of
right,
this.
but you don't want to feel the impact, right?
No, I mean, it's not bone shattering haptics, but it's a zap that lets you know when you've been hit by a laser or grabbed on your wrist or something like that, because
I see.
I want to be able to look in one direction to plan my next move or to do a move And if the person I'm doing battle with actually anticipates, then maybe they can grab me while I'm looking in the wrong direction. You just get sucked into it more when there's more sensory data. So it says that they were impressed with what they saw with the November iteration of Underdog's preview. So let's go on over to Underdogs. This is a modern article, but it's over at uploadvr.com, and it says here, let's see, Henry Stockdale. It says thank you for. So this is an actual interview. I think they pronounce their name Levi. For those who don't know, Rocket NX is basically psychedelic racquetball in space. It's a sports game about high scores and motor control. Underdogs, on the other hand, is a hardcore game about gangsters and mechs, smashing bots in fight pits. It's a roguelike in a rich world full of effed up characters with RPG elements and massive customization options, and in general is a lot closer to style and depth we know and love from PC games. But this is a VR game. So you have me already. I'm all over this. I'm going to go and get this game if it's around for PC, because I don't use anything else. I don't even play the games that are on the Pico game store, even if they're on PC. I don't buy them just for the Pico. Okay, so
like you get a game that's in both?
You can, and here's why you would do that. I can actually take my Pico and go out in the middle of nowhere. I can go to the town center of ohmTown and put my headset on with no PC. It doesn't have to be connected to a PC because it has a game store that I can download and play a game in situ on my VR headset. The difference is that I get greater fidelity and more options if I attach it to a PC and a local network. So newfangled VR headsets allow you to be anywhere. They're wireless now. Certain ones, like Big Screen Beyond, has an umbilical. The Valve Index has an umbilical, and others have an umbilical. I actually despise umbilicals. But there are tools to stop you from getting tangled up in it, right? There's one that plops a watermark down on your floor, and you leave it permanently there in virtual space. And as you screw yourself up in the game, it actually twists the watermark in the direction of the tangled cord. So you know that, you've walked around in a circle 5 times, and so it's twisted up 5 times. You have to walk around the other way. That doesn't actually unspool the cable most of the times. It's still tangled around your ankles, and then you take a step and you fall into your desk and have to get new teeth. But
you're really selling this.
I'm selling
I guess
wireless.
the key is wireless, yeah.
Yep. So this game, I don't know if it's out. I don't remember actually seeing it, but it says Upload VR. Asked the question, were there any other particular lessons or feedback the team took from Racket NX's development into Underdogs? They say they learned a lot about VR basics from Racket NX. From making UI work in VR to crafting satisfying physical interaction, learning where you want to innovate because VR and where you want to keep things familiar and reliable was one of the personal biggest takeaways. So I find it pretty interesting.
Okay, so it's going to be released Q1 2024,
okay,
according to the information on Steam, and it's also a page behind like you have to be appropriate age to view.
Oh, okay. So it's got a rated content. I don't want to say adult content because of the context of that. Anyway, it's a roguelike, and you get items to buy and steal and earn and otherwise come by during the game. It'll make or break your run. They say roguelike, so you die a lot, return to your base. If you do get dropped, you lose whatever loot you might have had during that run. You might have to fight your way back to get your loot. It's going to be a fun game. The way that I'm envisioning this, they have, I think, a video demo somewhere, but I don't see it in here. But I'll end up talking about that. Maybe next week I will have played it. I have a really, really busy week, but let's see if I can actually play that this week. There's more to this article, but I think that you'll enjoy this if you're into VR. And if you're watching this or listening to this, then by golly, I believe you are. So they do have a trailer. It's over on YouTube. If you do a search for Underdogs, it's an announcement trailer. It says Meta Quest 2 and 3 in Pro. I don't know if it's for PC, but for whatever reason, I had the sensation that it was. But I'll look into it again. It says releasing soon on Quest and PC VR, so that's what it says right there. But it doesn't say it in the trailer. So considering it's Meta, it might have been limited to just the Quest. So let's keep going. The next article is over in Reality Hacker. Groundbreaking UEVR Mod injects VR support into almost any Unreal Engine PC game. I've actually seen a bunch of videos about this. After a little bit of heavy lifting, you can get any Unreal Engine game to operate in VR. Things are a little quirky at times. Most people remember Vorpex, a paid injector tool that promised to let you play hundreds of VR games with your headset. It was always a nightmare to mess with this, so I never ever bothered with it. But Praydog's Universal Unreal Engine VR Mod, or UEVR, goes further than Vorpex ever did. That's because Unreal Engine and its latest iterations are so easy to tap into that somebody actually created middleware that translates anything in Unreal Engine into VR, because with Unreal Engine, it actually embodies everything. It just doesn't expose it until you allow it to programmatically be exposed. So if you plop something down and you label it as only a 2D view from one angle, it actually has the ability to render all of it. And so the UEVR mod says, okay, now you're in a three-dimensional space, so start rendering all of the objects. And so if you're in VR, you start walking around it and you see the object in all dimensions. And it becomes immersive. It's physically there. It becomes a little wonky at times because the way that the game works is if the item that you're holding or the item that you're working with isn't truly a three-dimensional object, it looks a little like flat. It's still two-dimensional.
Oh, it's like flat Stanley.
Yeah. And when you grab something like a gun or something and you pick it up, there's no arm because it's never been generated in the game. And so you just have this gun floating around, and it sometimes gets detached from its like where it should have been pegged to the ground or staked to the ground. It now gets like GPS gets misaligned and it just wobbles out into the space too far. And while you're in VR and you're moving your hand really close to yourself, the gun is still sitting out there half a foot, and you're like, that's not where the gun should be.
Right. I also wonder what would happen like at the edge of the game, like if you're walking somewhere and then, I don't know, it just seems like there would be some quirky things with this.
There's usually a wall, so but the virtual reality of this is that an EU game that you would be walking around first person, not in VR but with mouse and keyboard, it basically pulls you into VR so that instead of mouse and keyboard, it's the headset and controllers. And so you basically are that player, but more interactive or more immersive because you are no longer looking at a screen in the same way that you are looking at a screen. Right, it's like through
your eyes, right?
Yes.
So is it only going to work then with like a first person point of view? I'm assuming it wouldn't work to convert like a third person point of view game, right?
No, it'll work with anything that's made with Unreal Engine. So a game that would be over the shoulder, you can actually zoom into the character's perspective, and you wouldn't be over the shoulder. But some of the mechanics will get thrown off, like I was describing with the gun and stuff like that. But it's a lot of fun. So the article is over at Upload VR. Did I throw it into that? No, I didn't.
Have you tried this mod yet?
No, I have not. I want to dedicate some time, but this came out very recently, and so I haven't had any time to dedicate to it, but I will. I want to. So, groundbreaking UEVR Mod injects VR support into almost any modern Unreal Engine game. David Haney over at uploadvr.com put the article together. And it basically goes over exactly what I said. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what they're going to be saying. I haven't read the article, and it's just like our other shows. We gather up 10 interesting articles based on the snippet, and then we talk about it live. And just like the other show, because this is focused more, our reaction is based on our understanding of, our world experience, and then it gets applied to this particular article. So our reaction is authentic and real-time, unedited. We don't game the system. It is what it is. So sometimes I might, say something goofy. I might make a mistake. Let me know in chat. Let me know in email. Post a message over on YouTube. This will get posted over on YouTube as well, under the Reality Hacker moniker, but under ohmTown over at YouTube, at least until we get enough attention to the point where it would have to be broken off, just so that we're not just so noisy in ohmTown. Because I do have channels that are set up for all of these shows, like Reality Hacker and the Continuity Report, which is tomorrow. So it says here, most Unreal Engine games should work out of the box with little to no configuration needed, though some require a fallback method of 3D rendering called synchronized sequential, which impacts performance and adds ghosting to some effects like TAA and motion blur. Depending on the game and your settings, it can also introduce issues with particle effects. There's other things. The degrees of freedom, the 6 degrees of freedom here. Sometimes the tracking with those 2D objects that I was talking about. Sometimes the tracking gets detached a little bit and the gun ends up floating, or the object ends up oddly out of reach or whatever. But if you are into VR, you cannot go wrong with this, particularly with Unreal Engine. If you are interested in Unreal Engine games, you'll love this. So it says, unsure which of the PC games use Unreal Engine 4.8 or above, another modder built the tool called RaiPal, which if you install it, it'll update UEVR and find all of the games in your library. It even lists Alex's compatibility score for each title and can launch it directly into VR mode for you. I don't like things scanning my system, so I probably won't ever do that. But if I like a game, I will go, hey, is it built by Unreal Engine or with Unreal Engine? Then I'll run with it. Anyway, it'll be pretty cool, and I'll start noodling around with my Pico some more. It's been a while, but I've been extremely busy and other things going on. So let's do this. The last article for today is over in the Reality Hacker XR Year in Review, the most important stories of 2023 and what they mean for 2024. The article starts out with, somehow another year has come and gone. 2024 will mark the 13th year that the author, roadtovr.com, has been following the XR journey, and with an eye on that long-term perspective, it's once again time to reflect on the biggest stories of last year and talk about what's on the horizon. So I'm not going to go through all of this. I encourage you to go over there and read the article from Ben Lang. I've posted it into the chat, and it'll be in the show notes. I do want to try and keep all of the shows to about an hour. But let's see how long this article actually is. Oh, it's quite long. So they announced, Apple announces Vision Pro. It's $3,500. They may come out with a lower price version at some point, but right now apparently they're sending out these Vision Pros at $3,500. I don't know if people are gonna really buy into it, because the technical sophistication of this is profound. When what people really want is just to be able to immerse themselves in a VR world, they don't need all of the rest of this stuff. But this is
a lot of people, of course, can't afford this.
Yeah, $3,500 for these swim goggles. And while I don't like the idea of, I'm really in Apple's camp, but I do all of my gaming on PC, all of my VR on PC. I do very little anymore on Apple, only because the workflow doesn't allow me to use the Apple ecosystem. But my personal space is primarily Apple. And I love its quality. I love its reliability. I've never had any issues, knock on wood. But it is what it is. I love the idea of these, but it's so intrusive and so stupid looking. If I walked into a room and I saw somebody looking at me like that right there, I would probably want to smack those glasses right off their head.
I was thinking more simply, leave the room.
Sure, I'll leave the room. So the next article, sorry, not the next article, but the next tech story
segment.
was Sony. Segment. Sony launches PlayStation VR 2. These are interesting, I'd say, but you have to have the PlayStation setup to utilize them. So I've always poo-pooed this. Just invest in PC and make it so that the developers have to build for PC. It says, though the headset seemed to come out of the gate with strong momentum, by the end of 2023, PC VR 2 doesn't feel like they've garnered significant traction despite a handful of exclusive games. The platform feels like it's the same problem as PC VR. The dominance of Quest has meant that the vast majority of games are built for Meta's headsets first, then ported to PSVR 2 and PC VR. This is the problem. But developers go where the money is, and they don't develop in a vacuum. They don't want to sit there and take the risk of developing PC VR. They go, hey, Meta, we have this great game. It's for VR. Okay, well, we'll pay you for your development costs and juice and then sales. So get going, but it's exclusive for 2 years, at least. How about HTC Vive XR Elite? Pretty expensive. Vive XR Elites are $1,100 price point, but put it in line with the Meta Quest Pro. Put this in perspective, the Pico 4s, which arguably aren't as good, I think that they're just as good, are $400. So,
well, look at that. I mean, you could have multiple headsets in your household for the same price.
Yep, and that's why I got the Picos. So Meta cuts Quest Pro price significantly. At $1,500, it's the most expensive headset the company has ever sold. Less than 6 months later, down to $1,000. Then Big Screen launches the Beyond headset. This is actually the smallest headset that I know of in existence. Problem with this thing is it has no audio. So to get audio, you have to either get a headset or some Bluetooth connection to the audio track on whatever it is that you're playing. And it has a USB-C umbilical. They never show it, but it's basically hidden behind their neck.
Like they have it perfectly placed so it's not visible.
Yeah, that's how a lot of companies do it. They hide the pain point. And it's $1,000. The most interesting thing about the Big Screen Beyond headset is that this is the headset right here. It's only like maybe an inch thick. Very, very high quality optics. But then what you do is you use a Big Screen Beyond headset, sorry, not headset, but a scanner on your phone, and you scan the topology of your eyes. It measures your interpupillary distance and does the topology of your face. And they custom make the interface between the headset and your face. So when you strap this bad boy on, there's no light leak. You're perfectly in dark. Unless you like squint or some muscle causes you to like make the thing stand off your face a little bit. That is the amazing part about this thing. And you can get different ones for different people. And you can account for glasses and stuff like that in the measurement.
And it's doesn't look as bulky as a lot of the other headsets.
Yeah, that's why I love this thing. Right up to the
Why don't
point
they just
where
put audio in and also make it wireless?
Well, price. They're innovators, and so to make it like this, they have to keep the price point down to add all of the manufacturing cost and the equipment to bring the audio track in would be another $250 or $300 because of all of the production costs. You know, you have to do mold work and stuff like that to make all of these pieces happen. So it would be, $1,500. I still think that it would be superior, and I wish they would do it. So they talk about Roblox, Assassin's Creed, Asgard's Wrath launch on Quest. I'm not really into any of that. So then they talk about ByteDance wavering on Pico commitment, which makes me waver on Pico commitment. And so what does it mean for 2024? Pico was seemingly right on the cusp of breaking into consumer standalone VR market headset as a serious alternative to Quest with decent hardware and an increasingly competitive content library. The company seemed poised to launch its latest headset into the US to compete with with Meta, but for some reason that never happened. So I know why, and it's because Americans started getting told that it's something bad's happening with ByteDance because it's owned by China. And anything that happens with China means that the data is being exfiltrated and they're spying and blah, blah, blah. Not to mention things like actual spying. So similar to Meta, ByteDance will likely hold off on making any major moves in XR. And XR in this context is anything virtual reality, augmented reality, etc., mixed reality, before seeing what impact Apple Vision Pro has on the market. Now, I don't think Apple Vision Pro is weighing on ByteDance and Pico.
I don't think they're even in the same market.
Yeah, tell me about it. I mean, why in the world would a $400 to $600 VR headset feel worried about what the hell Apple does? Give me a break. They're worlds apart. Meta launches Quest 3 and others. You can continue all the rest of this. We're gonna bow out for tonight, and we'll up our production value for episode 2. Sound good?
Sounds great.
All right, folks. So I'm Mayor Watt. This is Reality Hacker at ohmTown. And we'll see you next week for Reality Hacker episode 2. Again, I'm Mayor Watt. That is Reality Hacker. And up there is the visualizer for the the artificial intelligence that keeps me out of trouble. I want to say good night to everybody.
Good night. And we'll see you next week with the next episode of Reality Hacker.
Bye-bye, everybody.